Hello and welcome to another episode of the Student Physio podcast. This is the second episode of the student series, and we have some lovely people from Brunel University going to talk to us about their experience volunteering at the London Marathon, their course and their Physio Society. It's a really good episode, so I really hope you like it. And as always, you can follow us on social media at the Student Physio podcast. That's Instagram and YouTube. Welcome to the Student Physio podcast. Today we have an episode on the student series with Brunel, and we have Gabby, Molly and Alexandra. And today we're just going to be chatting about everything Brunel Physio. But to start off with, how's everybody doing?
Doing
good,
well.
thanks.
Yeah,
That's
good.
great. That's great. So what years are you guys in? Oh.
I'm in third year BSc.
Cool.
I'm
Right,
second year. Oh, sorry. Sure.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
start that again.
second year BSc. Sorry, I'm actually in the Mary Seacole building right now where we have most of our classes. If you hear any background noise, I apologize.
That's no worries at all. So you guys are on placement. Gabby, you're on placement. How's that going?
Enjoying it a lot. So it's my third placement. I'm on community pediatrics. And my previous ones I've had were MSK outpatients and ICU and surgical wards. So a bit different, but enjoying it nonetheless.
Gosh, that sounds so cool. So, okay, first question, Molly. Tell us a bit about you. Why did you choose physio, some hobbies, things like that?
So this is my second degree. I did an undergraduate degree way back when in 2014 in drama and theatre, and then worked as a wellbeing officer for 2 years and sort of did everything but drama and theatre. And then when I had the opportunity to do drama, COVID hit, so no theatres existed anymore. So I started working for Lush, and at the time I was competing internationally as a cheerleader as well. And my mum like basically just pushed me towards it. So I was always going to do nursing. It was always going to be the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mum just sort of said to me, why don't you have a look at physio? And that was in the March. And by the April, I'd applied and got a place and had applied for student finance and everything. So within a month, I'd decided I was going back to uni and booked everything. So bit of an impulse,
Wow.
but it was good fun.
That sounds amazing. Cheerleading too. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Gosh,
a bit out there, but yeah.
No, that's so cool. And what about you, Alex?
So I'm also, this is my second degree as well. As you can hear my accent, I'm Canadian, but I was already living in the UK before kind of COVID hit anyways. I was a professional dancer, so I was dancing in Canada and the United States. I lived in New York for a really long time. So cruise ships, regional theater, concert jobs, corporate, all the stuff. And I was constantly injured as a dancer, especially growing up training. My body was not made to dance, and physios really, really helped me. So I was in and out of the physios offices probably from the age of 12 on, and they were amazing. I would always trust a physio over a doctor whenever I injured myself. Not to negate doctors, of course, but physios are movement specialists, of course. So they really helped me get my career on path. They started teaching me about anatomy and training, cross training, all these things that you don't normally get, or you didn't used to get when you were training professionally as a dancer. So COVID hit. I was kind of at the end of my career already dancing. COVID hit and was like, okay, now is the time to go back to school. And I always knew it was going to be physio. I always knew that was going to be my next career path after I was done dancing professionally. And I applied to Brunel, and now here I am, second year.
That's awesome. Gosh, you both are very competitive in your sports. That's so cool. What about you, Gabby?
So I was initially just going to go on a gap year because I was going to go to the US for medicine, and then decided against that because everything got a bit messed up. And then both my parents are in healthcare, so my dad's a physio and my mum's a nurse. So I just sort of ended up going down the physio path that way. And then stuff I like to do, I do quite a few sports. So I do lacrosse, climbing and triathlons. Triathlon being my main one. And yeah, sort of everything got put on pause during COVID, but I'm happy to be back in person and actually playing with instead of just bouncing a ball against the wall.
Yeah,
that's me.
definitely. Gosh, it's so nice being back in people. I mean, we say this talking on a screen, a bit ironic, but you know, it's so nice. Like, you know, I don't know about you guys, but when we went into practicals in person, we were like, oh my gosh, it's people. Like, we got so excited. Probably the same for you guys, even though we had placement and things over the summer. So placement. What's a funny story that you guys have, or something that you kind of, a day that you thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe all of this happened? Have you got any stories?
So I'm actually the only one among us three that's on placement, because these two second years, they're going to go on placement January, all permitting, everything goes smoothly, hopefully. In terms of like stuff that's been really funny, it's just, I guess, like just confused patients mixing you up for someone else, and then your senior just being like, just go along with it, so they go and do that. Like one time I ended up becoming a ballet dancer, like just for the 30 minutes that I was next to the bed with this patient. And yeah, it was a great time. Got the entire bay up and practicing positions and standing by their bed. It was really fun. And also have learned to make tea for a class of 30 people. That's great life skills there.
Yeah, honestly, those are real life skills. That you don't need physio, you just need to be able to make a group of tea, can't you? Gosh. So I assume then, I mean, Gabby spoke earlier about how Brunel for the first year and a bit is quite theory heavy. How do you guys find that?
Sorry, I think we were deciding which one of us was going to go first then. I haven't done any anatomy, any science-based anything for like 7 years before I did this course. So I was lucky that I'd done like biology at A-level and all of this, but I didn't remember any of it. Like, I sort of came in and it felt a bit like drowning. And I'm really lucky that that the way that they do it is that they try and sort of like bosh out all of the theory first, because it sort of means that when I go out on placement, I don't feel like I'm as irresponsibly responsible, if that makes sense. So it's like, it sort of doesn't feel like we're freeballing it quite so much. But yeah, I think the theory first year is really hard. It's like it's lot.
Hell.
It's
hard. And they always cry.
And I've had to have my mum talk me out of dropping out every semester so far. Not because I don't love physio.
That are dropping out at least
once.
once.
Yeah, well, this is it. And it's not that I don't love physio, it's just that genuinely the work's just like, it's intense.
And
anatomy is hard, man. But no, I don't know a single physio that likes anatomy. Maybe you, Alexandra, but
I actually do. I like anatomy. I'm the weird one out.
Massage course being like, no, it's great, and I was there like, no, it's not. Context, Sophie, for us with anatomy, you have anatomy 1 in first term of first year, so lower quadrant. Obviously they're in all the muscles, Orion, so origin, direction, all that. And then second term is upper quadrant, and the exam is like a 20-minute exam to bosh out 100 marks or 100 questions. Don't know how you guys had it. We had it as 100 marks, and that's alongside like 3 other very big modules. So anatomy is sort of like, seems just like the easy recall one, and then everyone's just sort of like I'm dying in MSK and respiratory and rehab.
Second semester of the first year was a lot more challenging than the first semester, just because it was very heavy. Like Gabby said, we had our upper body anatomy, but we were doing lower body MSK, so you were having to balance remembering all the anatomy from all the lower body, but then getting tested on upper body. So it was a lot of information to have just going through your brain. So you had to be very organized, which I'm very type A personality to begin with, but even then I couldn't keep up because just organization skills and stuff.
I know, it sounds so difficult actually. So what do you think your favourite areas are at the moment, Alex? Have you got a favourite module, or do you know what you're going to specialise in yet?
Oh, I mean, it's probably going to change 5 more times by the time I graduate. I really do like MSK right now. I'm really interested. We have a study block for pelvic health, and I think Gabby already did that one just this past year. So I'm really curious about that, see if there's something I'd be interested in. But of course, it's probably going to change as soon as I go on placement, and I may fall in love with neuro. I'm not sure yet. So I'm open for surprises and to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I did my neuro placement over the summer, and I think neuro is difficult. Don't get me wrong, it's really hard, but I loved it. I was on the stroke ward at Charing Cross, and it was just so fascinating because I had a lot of stroke patients and some brain injuries, and it was just like, I didn't really think I'd be a neuro person. I always thought I'd cardio rest, but I was persuaded, and now I'm like doing my cardio stuff. I'm thinking, oh no, whoops. But no, I really like it. And what about you, Molly? Do you think you've got a favourite module or kind of area?
Pediatric neurology is like it's what I'm going into. Well, I mean, at the moment, like, absolutely will change. And now we're doing neuro. I have realised how hard it is to be a neuro physio. But that's absolutely where I wanted to end up when I started this. I've always wanted to work with kids, so always going to be peds for me. But I think I'll probably end up talking to Gabby at some point about the peds placement that she's on at the moment. But I really want to work in peds, and I think because I was always going to be a paediatric nurse as well, so that's where it's come from with me. Yeah,
that's so interesting. And what about you, Hannah?
So for me, it's either, well, it's definitely MSK. I'm not willing to do anything else. But either sports physiotherapy or get into military, because my aim was always to try to get people reach their full potential rather than bringing them just about on a survival level, if that makes any sense. So that's what I'm really interested in, maximizing human potential.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And Gabby, what about you? Is it peds or is it something else?
So I changed my mind a lot. So when I was interviewing these lot, I remember on selection day when I was like a first year, I was like, hands down, I'm a pediatric physio. And now that I have a 6-year-old sister who's grown up a bit, and I've like met all her friends, and I'm on pediatric physio now, I'm like, I don't know if it's for me, if I can do it day in, day out. I think I would like it as a rotation, maybe not as permanent, or maybe like not at the moment. I loved ICU and respiratory, just because it's a lot more of an immediate physio. So like you suction a patient and then you see them change straight away. But I am the same as Hannah. I really want to go in sort of like military physio, but I'm waiting for my military placement, which is next in the next one. So I will hold my judgment until I finish that one.
Gosh, that's so cool. Military placement, that's awesome. So a bit about Brunel now. What's it like? How is your interview process? Yeah, let's start with, how's your interview process? How is it, Alex?
So I think I was a strange one. I actually skipped the group interviews, and I didn't interview on campus like some people did. I think Molly James is the same as me. I was later to apply, and then COVID was already in the thick of things. So I had a Zoom interview with one of our tutors, and one-on-one, I was sitting like in my kitchen, very fancy up top. I definitely had a blanket wrapped around my legs below because I was like shivering with nerves, but looked professional from up top. And I had an interview with one of the tutors, and we had probably about a 30-minute chat. And that's what it was. It was a chat for me. It was very comfortable. It felt relatable. It was like, oh, I could go to this tutor with issues if I had something. She really made me feel that Brunel was a school that got to know their students. So I wasn't just a name on a list. they actually encouraged us to be individuals and to get to know us. So that really made me feel safe in my decision to go here. And then after the interview, I actually was told after the interview to expect a letter or an email saying that I was accepted into the program. So I think I was different than most because I was at the last end of the selection roster. So I have talked to other of my classmates and they had different experiences. So maybe Gabby might want to explain hers because hers was pre-COVID, so not post or during.
Yeah, go on, Gabby. Give us a pre-COVID example.
So I remember walking into Mary Seacole, so it's the building that we get taught in as well. That's where you also get interviewed. And then it starts off with them just sort of like letting us all get to know each other. So they give you like, I think it's a good hour, half an hour, just to chat and get to know everyone else that's there. And then we do group activities that sort of, I guess, try and showcase your different abilities like communication and justified reasoning. I don't think we're allowed to disclose the different activities, but they're just general ones that you would get, like team building kind of stuff. And then critical thinking ones where they try and see how you'd work out problems. And then you have your individual one where you're faced with a panel of really lovely people. And they just sort of ask you stuff about yourself. It's very different to how it's like to clinical interviews where it's like seeing how you would be as a practitioner. This interview for Brunel is more like, who are you as a person? Like, how would you describe yourselves? And like, what hobbies do you do? So yeah, it was really chill. Like Alex said, it's really lovely environment. It's no different to how they treat you when you're an actual student. So yeah, they really do get to know you.
Yeah, that sounds so nice. Yeah, it sounds very kind of chilled. I always thought about my interviews and they were quite like intense. I don't know if that was just me making it intense or it was actually intense. But yeah, stressful, isn't it? Because we had for Kings we had MMIs, so it was like you have different stations, and I think we had about 8, and you had 5 minutes on each, and each station had a different thing. And I remember getting a patient. I mean, it was quite literally a patient, and he had something cardio rest related, and it made it very difficult to hear him when he was speaking. And I just remember thinking, oh no, that's me done. But actually, turns out I did all right because I'm here. But yeah, and what about you, Molly? Were you a post-COVID interview or a pre-COVID?
So I was the same as Alexandra. I interviewed, mine was a little bit different. Mine wasn't anywhere near as chill, and I recorded mine, so I still have mine. Because I interviewed for a couple of other unis on Zoom as well at the same time. So I wanted to like record myself to like, it's one of the best things that I will say as a tip is if you've got recorded interviews, and especially even for like trying to go for jobs, like try and record yourself doing it. Like let them know that you're recording yourself because obviously they're being recorded as well. But like record yourself doing it so that you can listen back, because I have this thing that I will say things and then immediately forget everything that I've said as soon as I finish the interview. But mine felt more like a physio interview. I was asked about like different branches of physio, what it meant to be a physio to me, and all of the really sort of intense like, what do you know about being a physio, all of that kind of stuff. And I think that I can't remember very much about like the asking about me. I think it was more for me, it was just like, because all of my background, as weird as it is, I was a carer for a year as well. So I was working with basically my granddad who was a stroke patient. So working in that, so it was a lot of questions about sort of stroke rehab and stuff like that as well. So it was an interesting interview for me. But yeah, it was mid-COVID. So yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing, to be honest, have that first-hand experience as well. So Gabby mentioned that some of you did some stuff in your cohort with the London Marathon. Did you guys do any physio?
Yeah, so I think both me and Molly were volunteers for the London Marathon on October 3rd. So we were at different miles. I was on mile 20. I don't know where Molly was. So mile 20.
I was straight after you. I was at mile 21.75, so I was the next mile marker.
So awesome.
Hilarious.
I was obviously a student, so I didn't do any physioing. There we go. Let me try and spit that one out. Per se, we were tag teamed with qualified physiotherapists, and so we were taking the notes, being firsthand, watching them how they treated patients, getting them back on their feet, or they never really got off their feet, I guess, because we kept them standing the entire time. So we just helped triage them, made sure they were still able to go run the rest of the race, or if they needed to get pulled off. And we also had a couple of tutors as well who were volunteering. So one of my tutors actually came by about 4 hours in, and so he's like, "You guys need extra help?" So that was really cool to get to know my MSK tutor more on a professional but more fun social setting as well, because it was a lot of fun. And of course, you're cheering on the athletes the entire day, and they're so inspirational. Like, I was getting teary with like watching some of them run by, because I was like, oh, imagine. And they still had 10K to go after they hit the mile 20 mark. So very impressive humans.
That is very impressive. So Molly, talk us through, for the people that are listening, when you were at your mile marker and somebody came in, what would you do as a physio? Give us a little debrief.
So I think I got a little bit more hands-on experience than Alexandra did, because I got to, we had athletes sort of stumbling past us, and we'd sort of try and grab past. Generally, you'd have people coming in with like cramps or with sort of like muscle spasms, general wear and tear of body, because they're trying to run 26.5 miles, and half of them have only been training for like 3 weeks. So we had mostly somebody come past us, grab them and say, "Do you want to just quick massage?" And then our 3 professional physios were all trained in massage therapy, so they were just doing quick massages. And then what we got to do as physios was we got to prescribe sort of stretches. So it was really good fun, because we were making those notes, and we were trying to make quite detailed clinical notes, and trying to recall all of that information from like that bilateral and ipsilateral and all of that kind of stuff, but then also getting to be quite hands-on and getting to prescribe those stretches so that somebody could then carry on further down the race as well. And we did have some more serious cases as well, where a couple of people collapsed, and we had people come to the St John's tent, because we were at St John's station as well, and we'd have people potentially needing a sort of one of our physios to look them over and say, yeah, this person isn't fit to carry on this race, or for us to go over and say, if you want to carry it on, our suggestion would be to walk, because you've only got sort of like 4 and a bit miles, but you are going to put your body at risk at that point.
Wow, that sounds so interesting. I'm so jealous. That's awesome. I bet you guys loved it.
It was so much fun.
Oh yeah,
So
it definitely
is that
inspired me. I'm like, I want to go run a marathon now, and I'm like, the next day I'm like, maybe I'll just stick to 5K for now.
I put my name in the ballot after
I'll
it.
join you. Did you? Are you going to run, do you think?
Well, I mean, if I get out of the ballot, then hopefully. But it inspired me so much that I was like, cool, I'll try and run it next year. But one of the other things is it's inspired my mum as well, who turns 60 next year, who now wants to run the London Marathon with me, because I like rang her up and was like telling her everything was going on. So me and my mum are probably going to be running it next year, which is terrifying.
Oh my god, that is amazing. That's I think made my day. That's brilliant. I hope you guys do run, and I hope you do it together and you survive. I've never run a marathon in my life, and I mean, I've got time to do it later. But yeah, so tell me a bit about the social aspect of Brunel. How does it work? What's the society like? Molly?
I am the social sec. So
go on, do tell.
One of the things that we didn't get a chance to do this year, but is supposed to happen every year, is a physio fun day. So we sort of like do this big fun day where all of the lecturers and all of our tutors and all of the students get to sort of come together and have a really big day where we just get to unwind a bit and get to know each other, sort of having a bit of fun. But I think because of COVID, I've missed out on quite a lot of the social aspect of what I would have expected at uni, and it's something that I definitely want to bring back, even if it's just for like study sessions, because I know that like we've only been able to practice on, because we were put into bubbles, we've only been able to practice on like 3 or 4 people for an entire year. So it's like now being able to have that social aspect of getting to practice on different people as well.
Yeah, no, honestly, same. I think that's such a valid point. I think the social aspect, like we lost out on it last year, so I think we're trying to compensate and have lots of socials this year. I don't know about you, but I'm the physio social sec as well, so we're just trying to like book everything in for everybody. It's hectic. And what about, do you guys mix within years? How does it work with the BSc and masters? Everyone mixes? Anybody?
We're gonna try. We're gonna try and mix it. Last year, obviously, couldn't make it work, but now we're gonna try and mix so we can meet other cohorts as well, and even just people in our own year. Last year we were separated into 3 different tutorial groups. That's all we saw. So I only saw a third of my cohort. So we still haven't met a lot of them. So we're hoping to get all the cohorts together, all the years together, because we haven't met some of the master students either. But we do want to combine them all because they're all amazing humans, and getting to know each other will just make us all better physiotherapists. And it's fun.
Yeah, that's such a great outlook. So for our final question, it's our golden nugget moment. Okay, so these are things that we wish we knew, or if you could tell your younger self or tell somebody else starting physio, what would it be? It could be academic, it could be social, it could be just a life skill like don't forget to lock whatever, or bring your lanyard every day. Silly things that you think, actually, I wish I knew that and it would have saved me so much time. I'll give you a second to think. So yes, the classic one which I learned last year was, I don't know if you've listened to the podcast before, but I was kind of jokingly just saying with my co-host Damien that I wish I buttoned up my duvet when I put it in the washing machine, because I did that. Well, I didn't button it up, and I put my clothes in, and I came out with this massive bag. And just life lessons that you kind of forget. It could be anything. It could be like, plan your essay weeks in advance. But something that you wish you knew beforehand. Are you guys ready?
Okay, I thought I went. Write your study notes earlier rather than later, because I know first semester of school, I definitely didn't write any of my anatomy notes until the week before, and I was like writing up cue cards and study flashcards, and that's because that's how I learned. Whereas second semester, I constantly kept up with them. So by the time we actually got to exam season, I already had a thick pile of cue cards to study from. So it seems really annoying to stay on top of your studying and revision like that, but it does help. That way you can also enjoy your Easter a little bit more in the second semester.
That is wise. What about you, Hannah?
So for me, last year I was a European student, and I wish I knew how expensive it all would be. Because there are certain costs that I didn't know about. There was the NHS grant that I counted on, but I didn't get as an European student. So I think the whole money thing, that I wish I knew before I started. But to be honest, probably a good thing that I didn't, because if I knew, I wouldn't start. But I'm glad that I did, and I'm here now.
Yeah, I'm glad you started too. And what about you, Molly? Give us a good one to close it off. No pressure.
I think for me, it's rant with your cohort about what you don't know, because I think the thing that we fall into as physios is, because the workload is so hard, is that fooling yourself into thinking that everybody else knows more than you do, when actually we're all learning at the exact same level. And it's okay to sort of go to your cohort and be like, I have no idea what's going on. Do you have any idea what's going on? Because actually it's really helpful to know that other people also have no idea what's going on, and that it will come with time, and it comes with practice. And some people, it will not come until placement, and that's okay. And that you've got to be kind to yourself, because it's a really hard course, and it's a fun course, and it's so rewarding, but it's hard. So let yourself know that it's hard.
Yeah, that's such a good one to end it on. That's really good advice. Well, thank you so much for joining the Student Physio podcast today. I've really enjoyed having you on.